So, you came to Korea. New country, new culture, and everything seems unfamiliar. We all know this feeling, right? You may already be used to the food by now, but you probably still struggle with the new rules and the way life goes. Well, today, we are going to make your life a little bit easier. Today's topic is traffic safety rules. Let's go. Most of the traffic rules in the US and Korea don't differ much. However, there are several rules that you need to keep in mind when driving in Korea. So, let's go over them. Rule number 1. Do not mix up miles and kilometers. As you know, there are two units of measurement for speed, miles per hour and kilometers per hour. And South Korea uses the kilometer system. This can actually be very confusing, and not only because of the differences in measurement systems, but also because of the speedometer of imported cars from the US is usually set to miles. However, there is a simple way that you can use to convert miles to kilometers. Just multiply the number of miles by 1.6, and you'll get kilometers. Rule number 2. Know about the Safe Speed 50-30 policy. What is the speed limit in your state? As we all know, speed limits in the US can vary a lot depending on each state's policy. In Korea, a new speed limit system known as Safe Speed 50-30 was implemented throughout the country. Starting from April 17, 2021, drivers must keep 50 kilometers per hour, which is 31 miles per hour, on all city streets and downtown roads. Residential streets and school zones will be limited to 30 kilometers per hour, which is 18 miles per hour. Bear in mind that some roads will be limited to 60 kilometers per hour to improve traffic flow. Rule number 3. Remember that impaired driving standards are stricter in Korea. Just a glass of beer is fine. Have you ever heard something like this? Well, the legal limit for blood alcohol content in most US states is 0.05%. However, the regulations get tougher in South Korea, and it was lowered to 0.03% starting from 2019. If you are caught by Korean authorities and your blood alcohol content turns out to be 0.03% or greater, you will face up to 1 year of imprisonment and or 5 million won in fines, which is about $4,000. Remember this before accepting that glass of beer if you plan to drive. Rule number 4. Watch out for road surveillance cameras. As you drive along the streets in Korea, you can see signs informing you about road surveillance cameras. Korean police rely heavily on road surveillance cameras to enforce traffic regulations. For example, the cameras will take pictures of speeding drivers, and the tickets are then mailed to the driver's address. You will also see that road surveillance cameras are equally and evenly installed along roadways. This is why it is highly recommended that you stay alert and follow speed limits wherever you are, and obey all Korean traffic regulations. Rule number 5. Let's talk about fender benders. Parking lot fender benders are a very common type of accident, so a lot of people may think of them as trivial. However, you should bear in mind that in Korea, getting into a parking lot fender bender and leaving the scene of the accident is technically considered a hit and run. If you cause a minor collision in a parking lot and leave the scene, you could be charged with a crime. Instead of leaving, you should contact the driver whose car was damaged. Most Korean drivers put their phone numbers on their windshield. Rule number 6. Giving signals when changing lanes. Before you change lanes, you must show the direction of change with your signal, and then give other drivers enough time before you start the maneuver. Some drivers in Korea have the tendency not to yield to vehicles that want to change lanes. This can be unsafe, so give others enough time and have patience for safe and successful lane changes. Rule number 7. do not use a cell phone while driving. Using a cell phone while driving may directly result in a car accident. If you are caught using a handheld device while driving in Korea, you could face penalties up to 60,000 won, or about $50. Do not use a handheld phone while driving. If you have to use your mobile phone while driving, ensure it is a hands-free device. Please also remember that recent research has found that any use of a mobile phone while driving is hazardous, even with hands-free devices. Finally, make sure you never read or respond to text messages while driving. Rule number 8, responsibility to pedestrians. Have you ever heard the expression, people come before cars? With the recent increase in pedestrian traffic accidents, the duty to protect pedestrians is increasing in importance, and Korea is strengthening its pedestrian safety laws in response. When turning right at an intersection or approaching a crosswalk without a traffic signal, you must stop when you see a person at the crosswalk who would like to cross. Hold on. Don't forget that the duty to protect pedestrians also applies to drivers of motorcycles, motor scooters, and personal transportation devices such as e-scooters and electric kickboards. Remember, the sidewalk is for pedestrians. If you ride a motorcycle or scooter, you must operate your vehicle in regular traffic lanes with automobiles. If you are operating a personal transportation device, then you must operate your device on bike paths, in bike lanes, or along the right side of the traffic lane. Finally, for everyone's safety, be sure to wear a helmet when operating any of these vehicles. And remember that drunk driving rules apply when operating these vehicles as well. Rule number 9, traffic signals are not optional. Picture this. You're on your way to work and you're approaching a traffic signal that has just changed. No one else is on the road near you, and there are no traffic cameras. I know it can be tempting to keep on going, but stopping is required. It is not optional. I know what you're thinking. Well, other drivers ignore the traffic signal, so why can't I? If you get caught ignoring a traffic signal, you could face up to 75,000 won, or about $60 in fines. More importantly, ignoring traffic signals is always hazardous and places yourself, pedestrians, and other drivers at risk. Exercise patience. Stopping at traffic signals will only add a couple of minutes to your travels. Rule number 10. Now that you're here in Korea, take time to learn the traffic signs and lane markings. We've saved what is arguably the most important topic for our final rule. Understanding Korea's road signs and lane markings is critical to driving safely in Korea. One of the first things that you will notice when you take to the road is that Korea's traffic signs are very different from those in the US. In fact, Korean traffic signs have more in common with European signs than the traffic signs most of you are used to. Not only the signs are different, but the lane markings are also very different and contain more information. Let's take a look at a few situations that you may find yourself in if you are not familiar with the traffic signs and lane markings. Like, how do I know if it is okay to make a left turn when at a green traffic signal? Or what does it mean when the road is painted red? Failure to respond correctly could result in a traffic violation. Worse yet, not knowing the meaning of a road sign or lane marking could result in a traffic accident. You can find more information on road signs and lane markings in the Driving in Korea section under the Resource tab of USFK's website. You can also find out more information on Korea's traffic safety site. Take time to learn the signs and lane markings to make driving in Korea safer and more enjoyable. So, These are the 10 rules that will make driving in Korea safer and more enjoyable. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.